Hello guys, today we are going to talk about lecture number 11, the loops. So we are starting our first step in dealing with loops. What is loops and why we would like to use loops? Is it really important to have loops in Java? Yes or no? So what is loop? If you add your program at any step you would like to repeat the exact same set of statement, or not even the exact, the semi-exact, or similar, can I say similar, similar steps. In order to just repeat them again and again and again, we would like to use something more simple. So that's why they created something called loop that you can put inside. If you can see here inside this loop body, whatever you would like to repeat many times. So the loop is consisting of, here is a loop expression, we will talk about that, and here is called the loop body. And for every single time this loop body is executed, this is called a loop iteration. A loop, yeah, iteration. So for each time this statement, this kind of set of statement at the loop body is executed, this is called iteration. So loop may have one iteration, may have two iteration, may have n iteration. This or that you will define as a programmer. You will say this loop I need 5 iteration, I need 10 iteration. It's up to you, and you adjust your loop to do whatever you want. This is an overview of the loop. So for example, if I told you, please just print out for me, write a Java program to print out the numbers from 1 to 100. Without loop, you would just say system.out.print1, system.out.print2, and you will repeat the same statement, system.out.print 100 times. In loop, you can do that using only a single statement inside the loop body. So loop is created if you would like, or use if you would like to repeat the exact same similar set of statements many times. And these many times are called the iterations. So you define as a programmer how many iterations. And you have mostly, in general, two different cases. In one case, you know in advance how many iterations you would like to use in your loop, or you don't know. If you know in advance how many iterations you would like to adjust your loop with, this is a strategy. If you don't know, this is another strategy. We will go through all of that. And if you take a look here, this is a structure of any type of loop. So we have different type of loops. We have something called for loop, we have something called while loop, we have something called do while loop. Three type of loops that we will cover here in our course. So whatever you have, sorry about that, whatever you have here as a loop, this is a loop expression. So the first step, this loop expression is evaluated for every single iteration, and if it is true, if yes true, this loop body will keep executing. Otherwise, if it's no, I'll get out of the loop. So I must be aware that in some point, or at some point, I have to get out of the loop. Okay, so I will adjust my loop to iterate n times, and I define this n, and at the end I must be sure that my loop will go out, will stop, will terminate. Otherwise, this will be infinite loop, iterate forever, and my program will never execute it, as I will remain inside my loop forever. I'm sorry I take a long time here, but this is an overview as a definition. The first type of loops that we will deal with is called for loop. So for itself is a keyword, and this kind of loop we will go with if I know in advance how many iterations I will use in my loop. So for example, I would like to have 5 iterations, 6 iterations, any iteration. I know that. So my first choice here will go to for loop because it's easy, and I define it its header, how many loops, how many iterations I want. So its header, if you take a look here, its header of the loop looks like this. You have something called loop variable. The loop variable or index this I. So for loop should have three main parts, three main components. This is called the loop variable, which is I here. Loop variable should be initialized. So initializing this loop variable to 0 here inside the header of the loop. And I should have a loop expression. A loop expression should define where the loop should be ended. And I should have a loop variable update. So this is increment. So in general, I should have a start point and an end point to the loop. So I'm sure the loop will terminate it. So here, for example, this loop will start at 0 and end when I less than 5, which means that I equal 4, and I'm incrementing I in order to proceed. 0 should walk from 0 to 5. If, for example, I said here I minus, excuse me, that means that instead of walking or running from 0 to 5, I will proceed from 0 to -1 to -2, and I will never reach 5. So I should initialize my loop. This is loop variable initialization. I should have an expression to terminate the loop to get me out of the loop, and I should update this loop variable in order to reach this end. Okay, so here the variable of I will change inside the loop. So inside the loop body, this variable of I will change. First it will be 0, then it will be 1, 2, 3 until reaching 4. I will show you that. And it's really important to know this initialization is executed only one time at the beginning of the loop. So I is equal 0 once. Then I will not execute this part again through my loop. I will execute and I will check this expression, and the increment will be executed. This one executed only once. Okay, we will see that. So this is the start point here, which is the initialization, and this is the end point here, which is the loop expression, and here is the loop variable update. Loop variable update drives the start point to the end point. The general structure of the for loop is like this. You have the initialization, you have the endpoint, you have the increment, and this is the loop body. This loop, for example, will iterate 5 times, and the value of I inside this body will change. Will start with 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, and so on. Okay, let's take a look. This is the increment. We took other lecture about that. We will not repeat that here. For example, I will define integer I, and I will start to define a loop. Here is the initialization. I equals 0, I less than 5, and I plus plus. And I will start the loop body. Here is my loop body. How many iterations you imagine this loop will go through? This loop will I equal 0, starting from 0, I plus plus, that I is incrementing. If, for example, I would like to monitor the value of I inside my loop, I will just write system.out.print, that's bln, in order to just the value of I. So here, I will see the value of I inside the iteration. If I run that, for example, I will have value 0, once the value of I. As the first iteration of loop, I is equal 0. So it's go exactly like this. For the program, as we said before, is executed from the top to down. If you find something like for loop, it will remain here until this condition is satisfied. Then I will start to execute this part. So this is executing exactly like this. For I equals 0. So I equal 0 now. And then this one is checked. This is the first one iteration. Is I less than 5? Yes, it is. So I go inside the loop here and I execute this one. So I equals 0 is output here. Then, after executing this one, the loop is finished. It go back to this part. Never go back here again, here as a beginning only. So I plus plus, which is incrementing I, value of I is now 1. And then check this one before going inside the loop. Is I, which is 1, less than 5? Yes, it is. So go and execute. Then increment, then check and execute, and so on until this one is become 4, output 4 here. This one is incremented to 5, and this expression is checked. Is I, which is 5, less than 5? No, it's not. So it come to here. So for example, if I just, after the loop here, in order to be sure, just said, for example, here, if I run that after the 4, I would start executing here. I would like to be really sure more. I will output the value of I. What do you expect the value of I should be? And the value of I here after finishing and terminating the loop should be 4 or 5. What do you expect? 4, if I is equal 4, I will execute this one, I will remain inside the loop. But when I is incremented to 5, this one's checked, so I get out of the loop. So I'm expecting I, value of I now, to be equal 5. That's correct. 5 is getting out. And if I just put an equal here, what do you expect the change will be? So 5 is now included. That means this one will proceed to get 5, and this one to terminate the loop should be 6. Take a look here. So 6 is here and 5 is here. So some cases we don't use the variable, the loop variable inside the loop. We don't need it, but we just need it to run how many expressions, how many iterations. So I'm free to do that. I can do like this, starting from 10. If I don't care about the value of I here, so I can set the value of I at the loop header as I want, just to count the iterations. So I equal 10, I less than or equal 15, I plus plus. How many iterations here? Starting from 10 to 15, it will be 6 iterations. So it start again from 10, 11, 11, 15, and here 16 to get me out. Can I say, for example, I equals 0, I minus 5, now shouldn't be less than, should be greater than, and this one should be minus minus. If we run that, that will be 0 minus 1 minus 5, so minus 6 will get me out. Take a look, repeat what I did right now. If I replace this with plus plus, the change that I made in order to be sure that from this starting point I will reach this one. But if this one is incremented, what's going to happen here? 0, in the next iteration the value of I will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will never reach minus 5. That means I will remain inside this loop forever, and this one will never execute it. If I run that, see, I will remain forever inside this loop. This is called infinite loop. This is very bad. We don't like to do that. So I just have to terminate the program myself. So this is called what? It's called infinite loop. So this is a value of for loop. You have to repeat that more and more, play with that here and there, and try to execute in different ways. If you go back to our lecture here, loop can step by any number, which means let's go back 0, minus 5, I plus plus, and be sure here is from 0 up to 5. Oh, this is interesting. You would like to see, yeah, this is very interesting. What happened here? I don't have even a single iteration. That's happened by chance, but let's explain it. That's why, because I is equal 0, this is the first iteration. Is I less than minus 5? No, it's not. So I'm not going to go inside the loop at all. And I will just jump to this part and output this one. So I forget to remove the minus. So now here I'm okay. 5 iterations, my 5 iterations, everything is okay. So I'm stepping by 1. Can I step by more than 1? Yes, for sure. I can say I plus equal to. And what's the meaning of I plus equal to? Which that means increment the value of I by 2. So the value of I at the first iteration will be 0, second iteration value of I will be 2, third will be 4, and the first one will be 6, which is not less than or equal 5, so it will not get in here. So it'll be 0, 2, 4, and 6 is out here. So you can step as much as you want. You can replace, for example, this plus with an asterisk, which means multiplication that's multiplied by 2. So it's 0 after 0 and resting. What's going to happen? Because I'm starting from 0, so anything multiplied by 0, so I will remain 0 forever. I will stop here for a second, just to let you think what happened here. So I initialized I with 0. I said when I getting as long as I is less than or equal 5, please execute that and increment I by 2. But I'm starting I with 0, so anything multiplied by 0 will be 0. So I, value of I will remain 0 forever. This is infinite loop again. So in order to use the asterisk or the multiplication, I should start from 1. So here I'm okay. It's 1, 2, and 4. And with 8, which is 2 multiplied by 4, I will be out of the loop. Okay, great. So this is a stepping here. This one is increasing by 5, for example. So it's the same if I said I plus equal 5, the same as I said I equal I plus 5. I multiply equal 5, the same as I said I equal I multiplied by 5. Okay, you gotta remember that. This is infinite loop that we just explained, that you have to be sure if you start a loop at 0 and you would like to end the loop at 5, you cannot do I minus minus here. So 0 will not reach 5. And here this is an example to calculate or to get the average of n values as an example here. So in order to do that, we would like the user to input the number of values. The user will tell you how many values that he would like to enter in order to calculate average 4. Then you will calculate the sum, because the average, as you know, I will calculate the sum of all of these ones divided by the number of inputs. So I have 4 input, 1, 2, 3, 4. I sum 10 plus 1 plus 6 plus 3 divided by 4. This is the average. So in order to sum, in general, in order to sum, have a summation, we will have a variable like double or integer or as you want, and you should initialize it by 0. This is away from the loop. And inside the loop, you can put these values inside it. So inside the loop, I keep accepting inputs from the user. If it's, for example, the user start by 10, and I have a value sum, this is a variable, it contains 0. So 10, when put to the 0, summed by 0, it will be 10. Next time user enter 1 will be summed with 10, be 11. Then 6 with 11, 17, and 3 with 17, which is 20. And now at the end of the loop, out of the loop, I divided once time by num value. What is num value here? That it's a user input as a number of values to get the average. So be aware that if you'd like to sum set of values, you have to initialize the variable that you will put the sum in as 0. And you iterate number of value user ask you to do that. Be aware that in future we will iterate until the user enter a certain input. Okay, let's start. This is input for sure. The user enters. This is average, as we said. This is the end of the lecture to make the maximum, but here I'm aware I would like to do this example. Which one? The one that, yeah. So here I will remove all of that. Start from the beginning. I would like to calculate the average of n buoyants. I don't know how many points. User can change the number of points at any time he or she runs our program. So we give him flexibility. We give him the option to enter how many points he would like to calculate the average for. So I will ask the user here system.out.print, and I will ask user, please enter the number of points. Okay, I will do like some formatting like this, and I will do like /n to have user to do that. Then I will get the input, so I have to declare an integer n, which is the number of points. So here n will equal the sc, which is the scanner, if you remember that, to get an input. Sc dot next what, guys? Next integer. Okay, so here's the number of points I entered. Then what I'm gonna do here, I will try to run that. I prefer to run for some steps to, if just I wrote some codes, I would like to run it to see if I'm correct or not. This is my strategy. If you don't like that, that's okay. So here the program is running okay. And here's, for example, here is the first part. I'd like to do some like commenting or something. Now, as we said, I will declare a variable I called sum, and I put it as 0. I declared as double, you declared as integer. It's up to you. And if you did that, please put the declaration at the same part in order to be consistent for your code. Now I will make a for loop for I equal, it's okay, k equals 0, k less than n, k plus plus. So now, but don't forget, if you have a k, you should somewhere declare this k as an integer. So k starting from 0 up to n, how can why I put it like less than only? I can do less than and equal, but this one will be replaced to 1 because I need number of iteration exactly the same like n, like the user entered. So you start from 0 and at n, which is the user tell me how many iteration it should be. Okay, so now I will start accepting inputs from user. So I will ask the user again here. I will get these two statements as copy and paste here, but I will use enter not the number of points, but the points here. And then I will get this one as, for example, let's say I call it temp. This is an integer. Temp is a temporary value, and here I will say sum plus equal temp. What does that mean? That means any point entered from the user will be added to sum, and sum will start. That's why we start and initialize sum with 0, because 0 will do nothing with plus. If, for example, as we said in our lecture, if I have this as multiplication, so now I have to declare sum or multiplication variable with equal 1, because 0 do something with multiplication but don't do anything with summation. So now, after finishing this loop, I'm really sure that the variables or the input that's user input will be summed inside sum. Now here I will use output the result, system.out, and I will say, for example, the results or the average results is sum divided by n. Sum divided by n, because the average is summation divided by the number of number of inputs. So here, if I run now to check if we did something wrong or not. So user said enter the number of point. I said 5 points. So here is enter the points. So I start by, for example, 1, enter the point, 2, 3, and 4. And the average is 2.5. It's a summation of 3, 6, and 4 is 10. 10 divided by 4 is 2.5.